Taking a little bit of time to stream. So we'll get there. There we go. So good afternoon and welcome to this Q&A session of the CEB Award. My name is Jelica Vesic and I'm the Communication Officer at the Council of Europe Development Bank. And it's my pleasure today to welcome the members of our pre-selection panel. I will introduce them now. Let's start with Elisa Muzzini, our Technical Advisor for Urban and Regional Development.
Hi.
Yüksel Bayramoglu, Monitoring Manager.
Hello.
Christoph Karj, Corporate Social Responsibility Officer.
Good afternoon.
And Horst Wattenbach, who is our Senior Evaluator.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello and welcome to all of my colleagues, and thank you very much for taking the time to answer questions today. So the purpose of this session is really to answer the most frequently asked questions you might have about the application process for the CEB Award for Social Cohesion. As a little reminder, this is an annual competition which we started last year in 2020 with the objective to recognize outstanding social projects in Europe. When we say Europe, what we mean is our 42 member countries. So this is beyond the European Union to include the Western Balkans, Eastern Europe, Turkey, and other countries. Last year, we received 84 applications from 15 countries. This year, we would like to explain a little bit more detail about what the eligibility criteria are, what the process looks like, and what are we looking for in projects. So we will first be answering the questions that we already received from you. Or in our inbox to our CEB Award email address. If you have any more questions, you can put them in the comment box of this LinkedIn Live, and then we will take them on as we go. So I suggest that we start with the questions that we already have, and the one which seems to be most frequently asked is essentially for us to define what we mean by projects in the early stages of implementation. So I'm going to invite my colleague Ebru to take this question on.
Thank you, Jelica. Indeed, we expect to receive project applications which are already at execution stage. So once project objectives are clearly defined, targeted beneficiaries are selected, and implementation timeline scheduled, estimated costs and financing are planned, normally the project implementation starts. So we would like to see more than a project idea, but an engagement for its implementation. It is satisfactory to receive a project proposal of which its implementation has just started. So we do not expect a project implementation well advanced or completed, results and targets already achieved. I hope that this reply is helpful. Otherwise, please, I invite you to ask further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ebru. There's another question that we received, and it's a little bit similar to this one, but I think it's really worth explaining and clarifying this. And the question is basically, does the award cover new initiatives only? Or existing projects? In other words, do organizations need to come up with really something new and special to be eligible, or any of their existing activities can be eligible to be nominated for the award? So, Elisa, I think you should be probably the best place for this one.
Thank you, Jelica. So the answer is no. There is no need to develop a new standalone project. You can submit an ongoing project as long as it meets the criteria for eligibility. In fact, we very much value projects that contribute to and are fully aligned with the mission, the mandate of your organization. So what's important is to clearly define the objective of the project in relation to social cohesion and how the project contributes to the broader goals of your organization. And after having clearly defined the objective, then you can focus on highlighting the impact of the project on the target beneficiaries and the aspects of sustainability and innovation, because these are the three categories against which the proposal will be evaluated against.
Thank you very much, Elisa. We're going to jump a little bit ahead because the next question is, and was asked to us recently, is about our expectations for the winning entry. In other words, more specifically, what are the expectations in terms of reporting, especially in relation to budget and financial statements, etc. So, Christoph, you could perhaps take this one.
Yeah, thanks, Jelica. Yeah, indeed, a question we have heard a few times by now, and worth expanding a little bit on. So first to say, we are highly aware of the language barrier, which may be there or maybe not. Not everyone is extremely fluent in English, so let me say that first. That means that we have a kind of very light touch reporting, I would even say a requirement. But we don't really expect any cumbersome reportings. What have you done with the 25k euros? What are you doing with that prize money? So what we do look for is some kind of narrative, some questions around how does this 25,000 euros help you with your project? Where would you like to use that 25k? And once you've been selected as a winner, we would like to have a 1 to 2 pager, like with some insights, some bullet points on how you want to use the 25k and what are you going to do now that you have been selected winner, hopefully. And so we are really interested in this narrative, and that's why we would also like to send a video team and shooting a few scenes and really giving you the opportunity to be presented in a video, which helps you to promote your project and which also helps us to promote the CEB Award. So to sum it up, basically we are not really interested in any financial statement in what are you doing to the last comma of the amount of the money, what are you really doing with it? We're not interested in that, but we are interested that you really provide some narrative around your project and how it's going to go forward.
Thank you so much, Christoph. I think this is a really important point to make because we are targeting smaller organizations. So we do really want to reassure them that there are no cumbersome reporting requirements related to the CEB Award. And now, of course, you know, this is what happens when an entry wins the award. But how do we get there first, right? I think it's important to emphasize first that the members of the pre-selection panel that you see today are actually the ones who are examining all nominations and are also the ones who will be scoring the applications and then making a recommendation for a shortlist. What actually happens after that, I'm going to let my colleague Horst answer that question because it's also very important for everybody to understand a little bit what the process is, what the timeline is, and you know what are the constraints. So Horst, please.
Okay, with pleasure. Well, we as the pre-selection panel, we apply the criteria that are explained in the guidelines to establish a pre-selection list. And based on that list, we might eventually ask some of the candidates to give us some additional information, some additional documents, if we do have some questions to help us in the final list. And once we have this short list, we submit that list to our internal office of the Chief Compliance Officer, because of course they need to have some very basic background check that anybody who we nominate is is causing any potential reputational risks for us. We are quite comfortable that this is not going to happen, but it's a procedural requirement that we have established to be in line with good practices. And then once there are no red flags coming out of that background check, then our shortlist will be submitted to the jury, which consists of 5 eminent persons. They are also presented on the website of the award, and they will make the final choice out of that shortlist that we have drafted. And in the end, it's the president of the jury who will announce the winning nominee at the award ceremony.
Thank you, Horst. We actually have a question on LinkedIn in the comments, which is related to what you were talking about, Christoph, earlier about the reporting requirements. And in fact, the question is for you to define what we mean by narrative. You know, when you say what we expect to receive from the winning entries, narrative. So perhaps you can just, say a few words of clarification on that one.
Yeah. So basically what you will find when you answer the questionnaire for participating in the award is that sometimes you really don't have very much space to provide the different answers. So you will really need to focus on the key bullet point of what your project is about and what are the project beneficiaries that you want to work with and that are engaged through their project. And so what we are interested in a later stage is to expand a bit on that very brief, very concise narrative you're going to provide us in that questionnaire and really give us a little more detail, a little more flavor. And this is then where what I was saying before is like this 1 or 2 pager. This is really a little more detailed in addition and above and beyond what you've already provided us with.
Okay, so if I can sum up this, Christoph, basically in the questionnaire, right, in the application questionnaire, we are really trying to keep the requirements to kind of a minimum, right? I mean, we don't want it to be too long, too cumbersome. We don't want that to be a barrier to entry. But of course, for shortlisted entries and for the winner, we would like to get a little bit more detail. And I think, this is what is meant by the narrative, is really just to understand a little bit better about what this project is about, how the funds are being used, etc. And so it's essentially what we mean is really storytelling as opposed to some very dryly defined reporting.
Couldn't have said it better.
Thank you. Now, we say on our website, and this is what we do, right, that we are scoring projects on the basis of certain criteria, some of which I think are a little bit, easy to understand. Others, may require perhaps a little bit more explanation. So, for example, when we say that we are looking for innovative social projects, I think it's worth perhaps explaining what we mean by that, simply because, we don't want to scare people and organizations off by, thinking that we're requiring something which is, extremely new or extremely complicated. So, Elisa, why don't you answer that one?
Yeah, indeed, so I can start by saying what we're not looking for. We are not looking for revolutionary ideas, groundbreaking ideas. That's really not the point. So we actually leave it open for you to define how innovative is your project. And so you can define the aspect of your project that you consider innovative. For instance, the innovation could be related to the implementation approach that hasn't not been done before, or to like the way you achieve financial sustainability. Or again, it could be related to the use of technology to address a social issue or environmental issue. As we have seen last year, there was a proposal which was about using drones for afforestation. So it is up to you. And I would say that innovation is often incremental because we always build on what has already been done. So in your proposal, you could highlight how you have taken into account what has been done before and how your proposal improves on it. And as we have said, in a very concise manner. That's all we look for.
Thank you so much, Elisa. We have a question that we received this morning, actually, by email, and it's kind of similar to something that we have seen before. And so I will share this question now. This morning we were asked if the award was open to non-profit organizations, whereas, for example, several days ago somebody asked me if social enterprises were eligible to apply. So I think as our terms of references, in other words, our principles and guidelines talk about organizations, but not necessarily define them, I think it would be perhaps worth it if we, kind of explained what kind of a wide net we are trying to cast here. Christoph, perhaps that's the one that you can take on. And of course, feel free to use examples from last year's application pool.
Yeah. Thanks, Jelica. So I think NGOs, yeah, for sure. That's definitely one group of applicants we really look forward to. Social enterprises, definitely. And we do also had last year municipalities applying. So I remember there were a few municipalities, I think especially in Turkey, who were really joining us here for this award and who applied for that award. So it was really good to see. So in terms of organizations, we do not have a very narrow definition of organizations here. So really everything from public sector to private sector organizations, even for-profit companies have applied last year and have participated. So I couldn't think of any organizations we would exclude from the start of the process.
Yeah, so I think here it's again important to emphasize that we really see social action happening in various fields of life, and really part of this award is to recognize this kind of the multitude of social actors that exist out there, and with some of them, as a financial institution, we do not have kind of a direct line of partnership simply by virtue of our statutes and our mandate. But in fact, this award is for us as well a way to kind of build a bridge with the areas, the fields of work that otherwise we wouldn't be able to. And that's one of the reasons why basically we have a very broad definition, and all types of organizations are invited to apply, because really what we care about is that social action and the social good is recognized, no matter which corner it comes from. So that would be, I think, all the questions that we have received so far. And I am keeping an eye on the comment box, but I don't see anything new coming in for the moment. So what I suggest that we do now is basically for each one of you, and based on your experience so far, especially looking through many applications last year, is basically if you could share perhaps some suggestions, some tips to potential applicants as to what are the things they should be mindful of, what is it that you are really looking for in a very good project, kind of like give them the tools to succeed. So I suggest we start with Ebru, perhaps.
Sure. Thank you, Jelica. So from the last year, while reading the project applications, all the time seeing any innovative solutions, ideas to address the pressing social issues were always great to see. As my colleague Elisa just explained, especially highlighting the innovative part of your project proposal will for sure very impressive. Will very much impress I think all of us. And for sustain, and it's the second element that I found very important is the sustainable approaches, taking into consideration environmental impact and trying to see the social cost and benefits, evaluating all the risks, and if necessary, identifying the actions. And the third element that I saw very impressive, it was bringing a sound implementation plan that renders a project application quite convincing. And of course, the engagement of beneficiaries towards achieving project targets and contributing to project implementation and results are rather more impressive than seeing beneficiaries as passive receivers. The fourth most, I think, important element that I kept from last year was the engagement of beneficiaries, really. So thank you.
Thank you, Ebru. Elisa, before you answer before you share your tips and suggestions, we actually have a question in the comment box, which I think you can also take. It's really a practical one, and it's essentially if an organization, an NGO in this particular case, has offices in several countries, does every local office have to submit a project separately, or do they submit it together? I mean, a nomination for the award. So it's really, a kind of a really practical question of, how is a project defined?
Okay. Perhaps, Christophe, you want to take this one, and then I will talk about the more of the practical.
So I would say it really depends. So if the projects are very different from one another, you might want to go with several applications, just really also to provide the space you need to explain your different projects. Again, what you will find in the questionnaire that you don't have that much space to really go into the details of your projects. So if you lump two projects together from different offices, from your NGO, you will maybe have a little bit of a challenge to really expand on what the project specificities of the different projects really look like. So it's a little bit up to you, actually. Or maybe it's the same project which is run in different countries with the very same project approach. So I think in this case you can definitely go for one application from one of the offices, but maybe making sure to really point out that element of cross-country project.
Actually, if I can just pick on what you just said, Christophe, I remember that one of the projects last year, which was shortlisted, was actually a partnership. It was a project in several European countries. I believe, off the top of my head, that it was Belgium, Sweden, and Croatia. So, like you said, it is actually the same project in several countries, and it was submitted as one nomination. So again, the key word here is flexibility, and really depends on the project in question. But it really is up to the applicants to see how they want to deal with that. So, Elisa, back to your tips and suggestions for how to make good nominations.
Yeah, so I'll give you my tips to actually do a great proposal. So based on the reviews we have done last year. So I would say, first of all, a great proposal, the best proposal are the ones that deliver multiple benefits. Because often we see in reality there is a trade-off between the environmental goals and the economic goals and the social objectives. And the best proposal are those actually sort of like find creative ways to achieve solutions that really work for all. So we call the win-win solutions. And I can give you an example from an entry that we received last year. It was the Shedia Art Upcycle project in Greece, who actually was shortlisted. And in this project gives unemployed people, like homeless people and people living in extreme poverty, the opportunity to be part of a project to upcycle unsold street papers. And so these are papers that instead of being recycled, they're upcycled. So they're transformed into products that are actually of use. They can have aesthetic value, they can be sold. So you can see that this project achieves a social objective because it promotes the social inclusion of those vulnerable groups, but also economic inclusion because it gives them the means to earn a living. And at the same time, it achieves some environmental goals. So that's what I mean by sort of like achieving multiple objectives with one project. So the second one is really to target very specific vulnerable groups. So be very specific when you actually define the vulnerable groups. and define vulnerability in I would say holistic manner. And so we saw that the best proposal last year were the ones that were able to, that are very in-depth and practical understanding of the vulnerability, what it means to live life with a specific vulnerability. We received several proposals that actually were targeting people with disabilities, and actually show this really practical understanding that only comes by working together with this group in designing the proposal. And I would say the third point is promoting diversity and inclusion by sort of like turning vulnerability into a strength, into an asset. So it's defining what are the unique abilities of and strengths of the groups that you are targeting, and enabling them to actually use those abilities for the benefit of society. And the proposal that won the award last year indeed sort of like did that, because it's Edona in Croatia, and it's a company that has a core business, the production of chocolate and confectionery products, and a very clear social objective that is to give employment to people who have disabilities. So it's really turning their ability their actually disability into a strength for the benefit of the society. And but I want to conclude by saying that also we're looking for very simple proposals, because the proposal that actually won last year, it's a very simple one, and it's very innovative, but also very easy to replicate. And so the simple proposals are usually the ones that are easier to replicate, and that's something that's very important for us, because it could be replicating in different country contexts very easily.
Thank you, Elisa. Now, Horst, what about you? What do you want to see in a winning project? So what's an outstanding social project for you?
Well, I cannot add much from a practical experience from last year, since I'm new to the team this year. But what I would be looking for is that an ideal proposal would allow us to see, as also Elisa mentioned just now, that we can see the potential, that it can be replicated in different contexts or can be upscaled, that it's not a unique experience. So that would be something very nice to see. Or also how likely it is that the social and environment benefits can be sustained into the future, meaning that they will continue. There's no risk of things collapsing very quickly, because it's a very sensitive project. But I think applicants shouldn't be scared by hearing all these quotes of ideal proposals. Of course, no project can be expected to meet all the ideal criteria of all the dimensions. So be discouraged by that. Of course, that's an ideal world scenario, but we will still find a very good best winner out of all of them.
Thank you so much, Horst. And Christoph, what is your take? What makes for not just a good, but a great project?
I've two takeaways from last year, I would say. So first, focus on the most convincing project, and second, don't forget about the team. Talk also about your team. So let me explain a bit my first point here. Focus on the most convincing project. So last year, I think we had an entity who sent us over 5 different project ideas. And I would say more focus on the quality and don't go with the quantity. So really choose that project which you find is having the highest chance of maybe winning, and really present a neat and very nice and detailed project outline here and the questionnaire, and we really respond to all the questions. And then the second one, talk about your team. So while we are definitely interested in all the details about your project, we would also like to get some insights to the team behind that project and the people really driving it. So talk a bit about the diversity of the team, about the gender, the educational backgrounds, the nationalities, the origins of the people really driving it forward. We are definitely interested also in that.
Thank you, Christoph. And I do wonder if you maybe answer one more question that we actually just received on LinkedIn, because it kind of it follows on the previous answer that you gave about the what do we expect from the winners, right? And in fact, this question goes a little bit further and is asking us what kind of a relationship we envisage with the winner, between the CEB and the awardee, basically, beyond just the awarding process, clearly, beyond just the award ceremony. So maybe just very, very briefly.
Yeah. Ideally, we would like to engage with the winner throughout the year, and I think that's also something, Jelica, you have actually done on LinkedIn and on other social media channels. You have tried again and again to highlight the winners and also even the shortlisted companies. So sure, the winners is going to get the most spotlight, but we also don't want to forget about the shortlisted companies, which we try to highlight a little bit throughout the awarding process. And so really to shine some light on the winner in the end. And what it means in concrete terms, I guess it's still a little fluid because it's only the second edition of that award. So it really will also depend on the initiative of the winner, what they bring forward as ideas. I think we are pretty open to different sorts of engagements, but what I can tell you is, yes, we do want to take the winner and highlighting the winner and the winning project more than just a one-off when the award is handed over and when you get your prize money. We want to also stay in contact after the prize money has been handed over, really. And the video team has visited your site and shot the video.
Yes, that's a very good point, Christoph. And we have done that, in fact, with Hedona, with our winner from last year. We have actually been in touch ever since the winner was announced. We are in constant contact with them. And unfortunately, last year was quite special because of all the, obviously lockdowns and travel restrictions. So otherwise, we would have liked to actually visit the project, as send a delegation and really get to know it there on the ground. We were unable to do that, but in a way we sent a video team as a proxy. But we have definitely kept in touch, and we are hoping that obviously as well as the situation changes, hopefully this year already, we will be able to have kind of like a closer relationship with our awardees. And as you mentioned, Christoph, I think it really also depends on them and to what extent that they would be willing to engage. But I think from our side, it is very open, and we would really welcome creating some kind of almost like an alumni community of our awardees, given that we are really very much invested in this award. So, well, thank you for all of these very helpful tips and suggestions. I think we can wrap up right now and really just share just a few reminders, which is basically that the nomination process is open until the 12th of April. 12th of April, actually 23:59 Central European time, to be really very accurate. So until that time, we are really welcoming your nominations. And after that, as my colleague Horst explained, there will be a very thorough scoring and examination process to culminate basically in June with the announcement of the winner. So really the purpose of this session today for us spending this, like maybe 40 minutes together was to answer some of your frequently asked questions and, maybe clarify some dilemmas. We know that we already have quite a number of nominations in progress. And, if that is one of yours, that we are hoping that, we have given you enough information today to encourage you to complete your nomination. And if you are completely new to this, then we kind of also hope that we have motivated you today to nominate your outstanding project for this award. We will be bringing you regular updates on the award on all across social media and of course on our website. If it so happens that we didn't manage today to answer a question that you might have, you can send it to us on our email address. We will make it available in the comment section on LinkedIn, and so we really absolutely welcome all of your questions. There is still time. There is almost well, a little bit less than a month until the deadline. So, still a little bit of time, and we're really there to help you and clarify things if there's still anything that you find a little bit fuzzy. So thank you very much to everybody who watched us and listened to us today, and very many thanks to my colleagues. And of course, we wish best of luck to all the nominations, and we are very much looking forward. And I'm sure I can speak on behalf of my colleagues who will be the ones looking into your nominations and choosing the best one. So thank you very much, and have a very nice afternoon, and greetings from Paris.
Good luck to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good luck.